My name is Song Oh, President of the Board. Before we convene, I'd like to remind everyone present that the Board is a consumer protection agency charged with administering and enforcing pharmacy law, where protection of the public is inconsistent with our interests sought to be promoted. The protection of the public shall be paramount. As I facilitate this meeting, I will announce when we're accepting public comment. I have advised the meeting moderator to allow 3 minutes to each individual providing comments. We'll begin with public comments for individuals attending in person, followed by comments by individuals participating via WebEx. This approach is necessary to facilitate this meeting. Before we get started, I would like to ask staff moderating the meeting to provide general instructions. Moderator?
This is the moderator. When public comment is facilitated, please note that comments will be limited to the topic that is being addressed for that specific agenda item. We will display instructions on the screen each time, and audience members may then click on the question icon, typically at the lower right-hand corner of their WebEx screen, type the word comment in the text box, and then click send for their request to be recognized. You may also choose to raise your hand by clicking the hand icon in the bottom row of your computer's WebEx screen, or if you're audio only, you can press *3 on your device to raise your hand. Each commenter will then be invited to unmute themselves, and they will be given 3 minutes to speak with a 10-second warning. At the end of that time, their microphone will then be muted, and we will move on to the next commenter. And I believe that is all the instructions that I have right now.
Thank you so much. I'd like to take a roll call to establish a quorum. I will do so by taking member attendance at the various locations, starting with members present at the Sacramento location. Board Treasurer Trevor Chandler.
Present.
Thank you. Good morning. Renee Barker.
Present.
Good morning, Renee. KK Jha. Good morning, KK. Jig Patel.
Licensee member present.
Good morning, Jig. Maria Serpa.
Licensee member present.
Good morning. Thank you, Maria. Moving to Pasadena location, there may be some members, little delays getting there. So we'll just please let me know if anyone arrives there. We'll start with Jessie Crawley. She may not be there yet. So we're going to go to Jose de la Paz.
Member of the public present.
Good morning, Jose. Nicole Tebow.
Licensee member present.
Is Indira there? Don't think Indira is there yet. So we'll come back to those. All right. And next, San Diego location. Are there any members present at the San Diego location? Hearing none, believe there are no members present in San Diego. With that, the quorum has been established.
President O, Jessie has arrived in Pasadena.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. We'll let her set up her device, and then she can hopefully unmute and then announce her arrival when she can do so. We'll proceed. Thank you. A quorum of the board is established. I truly appreciate everyone's time and commitment to the board and California consumers. I ask everyone participating today to be respectful of the work before the board today. We encourage participation by members of the public throughout our meetings at appropriate times. The board respectfully requests that when comments are provided, they're done so in a professional manner, consistent with how the board conducts its business. Moving on to next agenda item 2, public comment for items not on the agenda. We'll now accept public comment for items not on the agenda. You're not required to identify yourself, but may do so. I would like to remind everyone that the board cannot take action on these items except to decide whether to place an item on a future agenda. Members, following review of the public comments for this agenda item, I will ask members to comment on what, if any, items should be placed on a future agenda. As a reminder, this agenda item is not intended to be a discussion, rather an opportunity for members of the board and members of the public to request consideration of an item for future placement on an agenda, at which time discussion may occur. We'll begin with public comment from individuals participating in the Sacramento location. Any public comments? Seeing no one showing up here. Oh, go ahead and come up. Come on up. Thank you for coming. Believe you just have to turn on the microphone. Come on up. Yeah. And then make sure the light is on. Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, I don't, First of all, I just have a small hand. There's 6 of you. Oh, I have just a 2-page handout, so I'll just.
Okay, yeah.
Just,
Don't know how we'll distribute that to Pasadena location, but we'll. Okay, taking a little recess here, so take 2-minute break while the Pasadena location's being set up. Pause. We'll take a 2-minute break. So we'll return at 9:08. Welcome back. Okay, sorry about that. We're moving back to agenda item 2, public comments for items not on the agenda, and we have 1 public comment. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Dan LaGrady. I'm a retired pharmacist in good standing. Sometime back, just I was searching on the internet under my name. I came across a case all of a sudden, 5709, that had my name on it. I knew nothing about this, but I was on the first page where one could look at that first page and say, geez, this guy is working for that hospital. This hospital was rural, so it's hard to get, providers that come out there, pharmacists. And so everybody is temporary, but they all have a title of pharmacist in charge. And at the time, with my name appearing on the first page, it infers that that person is a permanent employee. I was right under the administrator's name. You can see that under there. This is embarrassing. It's concerning. I didn't know about it, never heard anything about it. No questions, no anything. If I wouldn't have come across it, maybe that would have been better. I don't know. But it is 5709. That's a concern of me. Like I said, we were all pharmacists in charge, but temporary. Then I was hired between October 30th and November 9th, 2015. With the whole case, you can go through the detail. I only did 2 pages because I think it's over 30 pages. And after the October 30th, 2015, November 9th, 2015, when I worked there, I traveled the following days, 2 days, and I had a family emergency actually in Phoenix from November 15th to the 18th in 2015. And then I went to High Desert Hospital, which was another assignment. I'm being assigned by an agency temporarily for so many things. I'll quickly go through the dates when things kind of happened. I don't think you have that on there, but basically inspections took place in January 2014, September 2014. They found 2 pharmacists and 1 technician. I will not mention their names. In September, November, and January 2014, or one was in 2013, one in 2014, a technician in October 2013, December 2013, January 2013, May 2014, August 2014, September 2014, and another pharmacist there in December 2013, January 2014. These are when the irregularities or illegal activity, I'm not sure which way you want to call it, but there were, I think, 2 individuals that were, okay, yeah. And so that in the full case, the detail is all listed there, and you can see the dates that they were there when these things occurred. Of course, I won't go into detail of what was, yes.
Really, really appreciate your comment, but we are doing 3 minutes
I
public
got 10
comments.
seconds? That's
So
it?
just want to make sure, I know,
No,
we're,
no,
I want to make sure you share,
I
what
got
you
the
want to
3
share.
3
Yeah.
minutes. How much time do I
You're
have?
almost there, but I just want to
Oh.
make sure, because I don't want to have them cut you off. So I want to make sure you make all your
Okay,
points.
yeah, I've made 2 trips here. The first one was last time and it was canceled. I come all the way from Palmdale, so for 3 minutes.
No, we appreciate it.
Okay, so basically, the pages I provided to you show you when those pharmacists worked. I worked from October 30th, 2015 to November 9th, 2015. None of my time doesn't overlap with any of these guys. So I wasn't even involved. I wasn't there. It was all over. I didn't even know it occurred when I got there for the week or so I was there. And there's one pharmacist and one technician. And like I said, the pharmacist in charge. So that, I don't know how my name got on the first page. It's like they maybe took a pinwheel and, oh, it's on Dan LaGrady, because it has nothing to do with the dates I was there. I have no idea. It's embarrassing to me. I've never done anything wrong, never heard about this. I'm concerned about my family, concerned about colleagues, former classmates. I went to my 50-year reunion. Don't say I told you that, but I was at University of Arizona for a 50-year. I helped organize it and saw my old friends. And I wondered, well, did you see that? Am I still your friend? Or what do you think? So it has bothered me a lot. I've lost a little sleep over it. And I would just like to have, as a final comment, somehow my name removed from that first page, or a pre-addenda item or something that says, so if anybody comes across that, they know Dan LaGrady didn't do anything and there's no inference or implication there. Right now, it looks like I did. I don't want to leave this earth and
This-
be thinking about that as a last thing, because I've never done anything
This is
wrong.
the moderator. I apologize. The time limit is up.
Oh, okay,
Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, I think I made all the comments I wanted to, and I appreciate the board listening to me. Would like to have 5 minutes or more, but I would like for you to seriously consider this. And how do you find out about something like this if something is it the next meeting, or how's that done? If there's any action taken, is what I'm
So
saying.
I apologize for the interruption because the time is up. At the staff level, we'd be happy to talk to you during a break.
Okay.
Thank you. Dr. Grady, Mr. Grady, Dr. Grady?
Yeah, well, you're all our doctors too, so that's fine.
Thank you.
That's
Thank you
fine.
for coming. Appreciate your time.
It's Dr. Sung Ho, right? Or is it Dr. Ho?
Dr. O,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, each
Thank
name
you.
to remember.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate that. Any other public comment in Sacramento? Seeing none, we're moving to Pasadena. Pasadena, how are we doing over there? Sorry, I feel like I'm like a sports broadcaster here going all over the place. We're gonna go Pasadena. Any public comments, Pasadena?
No comments from the public here in Pasadena.
Thank you, Mr. De La Paz. We're going to San Diego. I'm sorry, I missed which inspectors are there. Noel? Dr. Rendell? Any public comment? Anyone there, Dr. Rendell?
No, no one here.
Okay, thank you. And also moderator,
Thank
could
you.
you please promote some board members that are in Sacramento that like to join WebEx as well, Sarah?
Well, just let
Thank
me go
you.
ahead and find them. And it looks like we do have board member Cameron Banks on as well now.
Okay, yeah, any board members that are connected in WebEx, if you could just please promote them. And lastly, we're gonna go to WebEx for public comments.
Right, and this is the moderator at the direction of the board. I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment for items not on the agenda, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And I'll go in the order that the raise hands were received, so please be patient. We'll start off with our first individual, Jackie Stover. And Jackie, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hi, can everybody hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Stover. Thank you for taking my request. I am a specialty pharmacist, and I think I've spoken the last time as well too. I'm here to also, again, request for the Board of Pharmacy to reintroduce legislation for remote processing to also capture other pharmacies, including specialty pharmacy. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
All right, this is a moderator. We'll move on to our next individual, Ines Anton. And Ines, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello. Hi, my name is Ines Anton. I'm a California registered pharmacist for 10 years. Specialty pharmacy for remote processing. We know that the AB 1557 was approved for healthcare facilities. However, we perform the same duties and we've been working successfully for 3 years with no HIPAA breaching or any patient concerns. So we really appreciate the board to take this into consideration and we appreciate all the hard work. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to comment.
Thank you for the comments.
All right, this is the moderator. Our next individual is Sophia. And Sophia, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Allowing me to speak. So I just also wanted to echo the same concerns that the two previous pharmacists mentioned. In light of the passing of AB 1557, I'd like to request that the Board of Pharmacy continue to look for permanent solutions for remote processing for non-hospital pharmacists. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the comments.
All right, and this is the moderator. Appears that was our last individual who's requested public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Sure, yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. And also, just for the record, I would like to make sure Indira and Jesse, if you could just announce you are here.
Hi, Sang, I'm here.
Good morning, Jesse and Indira.
Present.
Thank you. Good morning, Indira. All right, with that, members, any comments? Anyone in Pasadena, any comments? We're ready to move on. Moving to next agenda item 3, recognition and celebration of pharmacist license in California for 40 years and other recognitions. The board's recognition of pharmacist license in California for 40 years or more is posted on our website, and pharmacists are provided with a certificate when they reach this significant milestone. Do we have any pharmacists present in Sacramento today for the board to recognize? So please come up. Seeing nobody here. Anyone in Pasadena?
Not in Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And Noel, is there anyone in San Diego?
Not at the moment, no one here in San Diego.
Okay. If you could just please announce if anyone shows up there, that would be great. Thank you, Dr. Randall.
I will, thanks.
And go ahead, Mari.
I just think we should recognize Dr. Dan LaGrady, whose issuance date was July 31st, 1973.
Thank you, Dr. Grady. I'm sure you've been a pharmacist for 40 years or longer, right? I can't do math fast, so that's not my strength here. So thank you, sir. Please, we have a pin for you. So hopefully many more years to come. And then Sarah, if you could open up the WebEx line for anyone that is in the attendance for 40 years pharmacist.
Sure. This is a moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. Congratulations to everyone who has been a licensed pharmacist for over 40 years. The board sincerely thank you for your contribution to public health and your dedication. Moving on to next agenda item 4, approval of board meeting minutes. Sorry, there's quite a few because we canceled our last meeting, unfortunately. So we have draft minutes. We'll take them in the order included on the agenda. So first, any questions or comments on April 19th, 2020 minutes? If anyone has any questions or comments, or if we can entertain a motion to approve the minutes, any members? Anywhere in here or in Pasadena?
Hi, Sung, it's Jesse. I move to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Jesse. Any second?
This is Jig. I'll second it.
Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Jesse. Motions, Jake seconds, and we'll start with any other comments before I open up for public comments. Seeing none, we'll start with public comment in Sacramento. We'll go to public comment in Pasadena.
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And we'll go to public comment in well, I'm just gonna stop San Diego, but I don't think anyone's there. Then Sarah, we'll do WebEx for you.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. With that, we're,
Share one question.
of course.
It says, so I remember being pretty sure I was present at this meeting, and it has my attendance as being not present for the April meeting.
You're there, Trevor.
Yeah, but it says I was not present. Yeah, I'm looking at the April. Does it say that? Yeah, and then hold on. Yeah, inside it says with the votes. I'm listed as not present under approval of board meeting. And then I'm
Oh,
also listed as not present under the motion to approve other minutes as well.
that seems to be a typo. I think that's non-substantive that I'm sure our staff can correct without formal action, hopefully. Corinne, what do you think? I mean, there's a videographic evidence on.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Look back.
that you would have to amend the motion, subject to
Okay.
correction based on staff confirming
All right,
Mr.
attendance.
Chandler's
All right.
attendance.
Jesse, could you amend your motion to that, what Corinne has said?
Yes.
correct
So I'll
things
amend
based
the
on the
motion
meeting
to
record?
make the
Okay.
necessary changes to show that board member Chandler was present.
Or any other changes that may be necessary, just to.
Or
set
any other
precedent.
changes, yes.
Okay. Jake, are you okay?
I
Second?
second that.
Okay, thank you. Do I need to open up for public comment at all locations? Okay, all right, we're back again. Sacramento, any public comment? Then we're gonna go back to Pasadena. And San
From
Diego.
Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And Sarah, back again for WebEx.
Once again, we have opened up public comment for this item. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, you can either click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, and we'll go for a vote. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yes.
Thank you, KK. Thank you.
Yes.
Jig.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Indira. In Pasadena.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Jose?
Yes, for me.
Thank you. And I vote yes, the motion passes. All right, we got 4 more to go. Next is from May 3rd, 2020.
President O,
Oh, sorry, Nicole. Sorry.
I vote yes as well.
Sorry, Nicole.
It's okay.
I thought I said your name, but I skipped it. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Nicole votes yes, and I vote yes, the motion passes. Next draft minutes for our consideration is from May 3rd, 2023, Standard of Care Ad Hoc Committee meeting. As the committee has sunset, approval of the final minutes must be completed by the board. Members, any comments? I'll also entertain your motion for the May 3rd, 2023 meeting minutes. If anyone wants to make a motion.
I move to approve.
Thank you, Trevor. Any seconds?
I'll second this, Jig.
Thank you, Jig. Any other member comments? Okay, we'll go to public comment in Sacramento. We'll go to public comment in Pasadena.
None for Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And then is there a public comment in San Diego? And we're going to go for public comment in WebEx. Sarah?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Any other
actually,
comments?
I apologize. Looks like we just got one. Let's see. We have a request from individual identified as KB. And KB, it looks like I have you logged in twice, so I'm going to guess which one is the correct one and request to unmute. You'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
These comments may not be related to what is agendized.
No need to
Yes.
speak. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I will not, this is not agendized item, so we're gonna move on.
Okay.
All right, we're ready for a roll call. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Jig.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Going to pass. Thank you, Maria. I'm going to Pasadena, Indira.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes, the motion passes. The next draft minutes are from May 17th, 2023, and welcome your comments, and also we'll entertain your motion on May 17th, 2023 meeting minutes. Members?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Trevor. Any seconds?
This is Jig. I'll second.
Thank you, Jig. All right, with motion and second, we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. Seeing none here, we're moving to public comment in Pasadena.
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And we're ready for public comment in San Diego. Hearing none, we're ready for public comment in WebEx.
Great. This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. Go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you. All right, with that, any other member comments before we go for vote? Seeing none, we're going to go for vote. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Jake.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Indira.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes, the motion passes. Next is draft minutes for consideration from June 7th, 2023, Medication Error Reduction and Workforce Ad Hoc Committee meeting. As the committee has sunsetted as well, approval of the final minutes must be completed by the board. Members, any comments or anyone would like to make a motion to approve? Would really appreciate it. Anyone wants to make a motion?
I'll make a
This is
motion to
Nicole.
approve this,
I'll
Jake.
motion to approve.
Thank you, Jake. Jake made a motion simultaneously as well as Nicole. Would you mind seconding that, Nicole?
Yeah, I'll second.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate that. Any other comments? All right, with that, we're ready for public comment in Sacramento. Seeing none, we're ready for public comment in Pasadena.
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. Any comment in San Diego? Hearing none, we're ready for public comment in WebEx.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A option?
Yes, please. Thank you. With that, we're going to go for the vote. Renee?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, KK. Thank you, Jake.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Indira.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. All right. And just want to thank Nicole for your great leadership in this committee. I really appreciate your time and all the work you put in. All right, the next and final draft minutes for today is June 21st, 2023 board meeting. I, again, welcome your comments. And as part of your comments, if you could make a motion to approve, or if you could make a motion, that would be great. Members?
This is Jake. I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Jake. Appreciate that. Any second?
Second.
Thank you, Trevor. Appreciate that. With a motion and second, any other comments? Seeing none, we're going to go for public comment in Sacramento. Seeing none, we're going to go for public comment in Pasadena.
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. And we're going to go for public comment in San Diego. Hearing none, we're going to go for public comment in WebEx. Sarah?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll go ahead and pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. With a motion and second and public comment, we're ready for a vote. Renee, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Trevor.
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Jake.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Indira.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you. And I vote yes, the motion passes. All right, next agenda is agenda item 5, discussion and consideration on the board's strategic plan. Members, as you may recall, the board's strategic planning session occurred as part of the board's September 2021 meeting. Following adoption of the new plan, on an annual basis, the board reviews its strategic plan to confirm the established strategic objectives for each committee remain appropriate or if changes should be considered. This annual review also serves as an opportunity for the board to evaluate progress in the respective areas. As a precursor to our review today, with the exception of the Organizational Development Committee, committees completed a review in their respective goal areas. I'll ask the chairs from the respective committees to provide a board with an update on its discussion. I note from the meeting materials that no committees appear to be offering any recommendation to change of their specific respective objectives. As such, from a process standpoint, public comment will be taken at the end of the board's full discussion. As a chair of the licensing committee, on behalf of our members, we're pleased to report the status of the various objectives established for our committee. You'll note that efforts are underway for many of the objectives. I believe some of these objectives will be multi-year activities, and I look forward to the continued momentum in several of the objectives already underway. Strategic Objectives 1.6 related to the audit of the CPJE has been marked complete. As I announced during our committee meeting over the coming year, the committee will be focusing on Strategic Objectives 1.2 related to various pharmacy practice settings and 1.3 related to authorized duties of a pharmacy technician. I also would like to note that the objectives 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9 are tied to the board's business modernization activities, which the updates will be forthcoming soon. Any members have any comments or questions on the licensing committee's strategic objectives? Seeing none, I will turn the meeting over to our chairperson of the Enforcement and Compounding Committee, Dr. Maria Serpa. Maria?
Thank you, President O. On behalf of the Enforcement and Compounding Committee, I'm pleased to provide the board with an overview of the strategic objectives for the Enforcement and Compounding Committee. As indicated in the meeting materials, the Enforcement and Compounding Committee has 9 strategic objectives. The meeting materials include updates on the objectives, highlighting our efforts over the past year, including updates made during our meeting. As I noted during our discussion at the committee meeting, I believe we are making good progress towards achieving the goal established in Strategic Objective 2.3 relating to routine performance of inspections. Members, do you have any comments or questions on the strategic objectives for our committee? Want to ask the other sites or? Oh, okay. Any comments in Pasadena?
No comments from Pasadena.
Thank you. Any comments in San Diego?
No.
Are those the only 2 sites? Okay. Thank you, President O. Hearing no comments from the members, I turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Chair Serpa. And then we're moving on to our next committee for our Legislation and Regulation Committee. Chair Crawley, if you could please provide your update.
Thank you, President O. As indicated in the meeting materials, the Legislation and Regulation Committee has 6 strategic objectives. The meeting materials include updates to the respective objectives over the past year. These updates highlight the work of the board in our policymaking efforts to protect California consumers. I note there are 2 objectives for which there are no status updates, including 3.1 related to advocating for provider status and 3.4 related to identifying opportunities to leverage pharmacists to increase access points for care. Specifically related to 3.4, I believe after some of the working conditions are addressed through the Assembly Bill 1286, it may be appropriate to consider ways to increase patient access to care. I believe the work done by the Standard of Care Ad Hoc Committee and the board's legislative report lays out some of the areas of consideration related to this objective. I'm looking forward to future discussions. As a committee, we believe the objectives remain appropriate and are not recommending any changes. Members, do you have any questions or comments on the committee's strategic objectives? Hearing none, President O, I turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Chair Crawley. And next, I believe Vice Chair Tebow will be providing an update on the strategic objectives from the Communication and Public Education Committee. Vice Chair Tebow?
Thank you, President O. As indicated in the meeting materials, the Communication and Public Education Committee has 8 strategic objectives. The meeting materials include updates on the objectives, highlighting our efforts over the past year. The committee reviewed the objectives and believed they remain appropriate. Later in the meeting today, you will hear additional information on the proposed consumer education campaign to support the release of the Notice to Consumers poster, which is consistent with Strategic Objective 4.1. Members, do you have any comments on the committee's strategic objectives? Hearing none, I will turn the president back to you, President O.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the members as well as committee leaders. The last report is strategic objectives that fall under the purview of the Organization Development Committee. This committee is comprised of the board president, vice president, and executive officer. As this committee does not meet in public, you will note that it is not offering any recommendations. The meeting materials detail out the various strategic objectives and status updates are provided. As noted in the meeting materials, several activities have been undertaken in support of the committee's strategic objectives. I would like to highlight some of the training completed by board staff under Objective 5.3, also Strategic Objectives 5.4 related to business modernization activities. I'd also like to thank staff for their work to updated information on the board's website as noted in activities related to Strategic Objective 5.6. Members, do you have any questions or comments on the strategic objectives for the Organizational Development Committee? Seeing none, and if there is any Pasadena folks, just please raise your hand or speak up.
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. With that, we're going to open up for public comments. Public comment in Sacramento related to all the strategic objectives for all committees. Seeing none, any public comment in Pasadena?
None from Pasadena.
Thank you, Jose. Any public comment in San Diego? Seeing none, we're gonna go for public comment in WebEx. Sarah?
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. I'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you again, everyone. Just before we move on to the next agenda item, we're gonna see if there's any other comments from members. Anyone in Pasadena?
None from Pasadena.
Thank you. Thank you very much for all of the committee chairs and all the members for your leadership in guiding us through the various strategic objectives. I believe the board will be positioned to complete the vast majority of its aggressive strategic plan in the remaining years. Next is moving on to agenda item 6, discussion and consideration of draft notice to consumers poster consistent with the proposed changes to Title 16 California Code of Regulations, Section 1707.6. I will turn the meeting over to Vice Chairperson Nicole Thibault to provide a summary of the Communication and Public Education Committee's discussion on the draft notice to consumer poster. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President O. On behalf of the committee, I am pleased to provide the board with a summary of the committee's discussion on the draft Notice to Consumers poster. Thank you to my fellow members, Chair Jason Weiss, Renee Barker, Jose de la Paz, and KK Jha. Members, as you may recall, the board initiated a rulemaking to update the text of the Notice to Consumers poster to reflect the board's efforts on reducing medication errors, including actions a consumer can take to prevent errors. As the board provides a copy of the notice to all pharmacies, while the rulemaking is undergoing post-adoption review, updates to the board's poster are necessary to reflect the new text to ensure the notice is ready for release once the text is approved. It is important to note that the language included on the poster must remain consistent with the regulation text. However, design and formatting of the poster can be changed. During the July committee meeting, we provided feedback to staff requesting some formatting changes to aid readers, as well as an alternative potential means to convey that the QR code is used to access the notice in other languages. The updated draft notice that incorporates the changes recommended by the committee is included in the meeting materials and displayed on the slide. During the committee meeting, as part of the discussion, we also noted agreement with staff recommendations to expand the number of languages that will be available for download on the website. Further, the committee noted agreement with the development of a consumer education campaign that will coincide with the release of the poster. I share the sentiments from Chair Weiss and hope that the board can work with the department to reach a broader audience on this importance of patient consultation. Members, do you have any comments, questions or comments on the draft poster before I open the discussion to the public?
Vice Chair Tebow, I would just like to say that I really like the design. If you notice it, that the mortal and pestle actually on the side is like a face of a person. I really think that was well done. Whoever designed this did a good job. So thank you to the staff for designing this poster. I think it looks a little bit more updated than our bright yellow poster now we have. So I'm happy to see this update.
I agree. I like the color better.
Hey, this is Jessie. I do have a question. Just thinking about patients who may not have access to smartphones, is there a way that we can include a website with the translations for those who may not be able to access a QR code?
That's a good point, Jessie.
At the bottom of the poster, the board's website is there. Would you request that we also include specifically the exact HTML or the exact web link to the translation page? Just want to make sure that I'm clear on the request.
Yes.
Yeah, and one other comment on the translation aspect. So I scanned it and it brought up the full select language portion, which is great. I'm wondering, could we add another translated version of the word translation, preferably in Chinese as well? Because I feel like we have English, we have Spanish, but someone who is a monolingual Chinese speaker, I'm trying to figure out how we can get as many people with as much or reach as many people through as broad a language capacity as possible. And someone who's a monolingual Chinese speaker may not be able to effectively identify those two words as meaning translation. And so that's just one suggestion I'd like to put out there.
If I could just get confirmation, so where we have translation and
Yeah.
then we have it in another, also add the Chinese.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure I was clear on the request.
Great, really good comments today. Any other member comments?
Yeah, same request as member Chandler, but I could not open the link. Maybe it's my connection, but if we don't have it, it's possible to add Punjabi.
I don't think it's active yet. I don't think it's active yet. Yeah. Just draft. Yeah.
Okay. So if it's okay, if we can add Punjabi to the same thing.
Okay.
Great, thank you. Any other member comments? Okay, hearing none, we are going to start by opening up for public comment from individuals participating in the Sacramento location.
There are no comments from the Sacramento location.
Thank you. There are no public in the Pasadena location, so we will not have any comments. Are there any members of the public that wish to provide public comment from San Diego?
No, there's no one here at this time.
Great, thank you. Moderator, we are ready for public comment from individuals participating via WebEx.
This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. All right, and seeing none, would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Yes, please. All right, members, are there any additional comments before I turn the meeting back over? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, President O. I turn the meeting back to you.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate everyone's time and work you put into this poster. I know it's long coming. Feels like everything, it's always one step at a time. So thank you, everyone. Next agenda item is 7, but it's 9:54. I think it's appropriate for a 5-minute break, as I'm anticipating the next 2 agenda might bring up some discussion. So we'll come back at 10 o'clock even. So if everyone can get some stretch breaks, we'll get some drinks. We'll come back at 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. See you soon. All right, we're gonna take a roll call really quick. Gonna do Sacramento location first. Renee, are you back?
Present.
Thank you, Renee. Even though I can see right here, I just have to do that since we have to do roll call. Trevor?
Present.
Thank you. KK? Thank you, Jig. Present. Thank you, Jig. Maria?
Present.
Thank you, Maria. And then going to Pasadena, Indira?
Present.
Thank you, Indira. Jesse?
Here.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
Present.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
Here.
Thank you, Nicole. And I'm here. All right, next agenda item is agenda item 7, discussion and consideration of draft proposed policy statement related to implementation of USP Chapter 795, pharmaceutical compounding, non-sterile preparations, 797, pharmaceutical compounding, sterile compounding, 800, hazardous drugs handling in healthcare settings, and 825, radiopharmaceuticals preparation, compounding, dispensing, and repackaging. I'll now turn the meeting over to Chairperson of Enforcement and Compounding Committee, Maria Serpa, to provide a report on the Enforcement and Compounding Committee's discussion related to the proposed policy statement. And we decided to pull this for today as the November 1st is approaching fast, and we won't have full board meeting until then. So this is why we brought this agenda. Maria, the floor is yours.
Thank you, President O. Members, as you may recall, and as included in the meeting materials, November 1st, as President O referenced, it changes chapters, USP chapter 795 and 797, and new chapters 800 and 825 become compendial. For the past several years, as changes have occurred in the process to establish these new chapters and revise existing chapters, the board has released several statements providing licensees with information on the board's policy during the transition periods. Including in the meeting materials is a draft statement for our consideration. During the committee's meeting, we received public comment that is similar to the letter that we received last night. I just wanted to make sure that members of the board have seen the email that came out last night with the letter. Okay. During the meeting, we considered all comments and made some revision to the policy statement and are presenting it today with a recommendation to the board approve the policy statement. I do note that there's a typographical error in the policy statement's first sentence, and I request, if approved, the staff correct the error before releasing. And that's the word is, should be including instead of included. That's just typographical. As included in the meeting materials, the committee is offering this recommendation to serve as the motion. Members, do you have any comments before we go to public comment? I don't see any comment in Sacramento. Members, do you have any comment in Pasadena?
None from Pasadena.
Okay, and we don't have anybody in San Diego. I think we're ready for public comment. Let's go through the rounds again also. Start with public comment in Sacramento. Someone's coming to the microphone.
Good morning. My name is Marie Kottman. I'm pharmacist in charge at Pacific Compounding Pharmacy. I'm also the owner. She's passing out my comments that I'm going to be reading to you right now, so you can follow along. I think it'll make it easier. Thank you very much for all the efforts relative to the implementation of new USP. I believe that the eventual reorganization of our pharmacy laws will be much clearer than what we have today. However, I am confused by this draft policy statement. I don't know if you expect me to implement the new USP by November 1st or if I can transition over time. And if so, what time frame? I would greatly appreciate a more direct and complete guidance from the board. I have two possible solutions that could help prevent confusion going forward. Number one, I propose this board consider applying the OAL emergency rulemaking process to protect patient safety. Repeal CCNR Articles 4.5 and 7, which you have already voted to repeal at your April meeting. By repealing these articles, you will protect patients from harm by providing clarity that compounders must upgrade to the new USP guidelines effective November 1. In compliance with existing BPC 4126.8, the regulation compounding consistent with United States Pharmacopoeia. However, if that isn't a good option, then please consider rewording your statement to read more like one of these. Either in recognition of the significant changes to the practice of pharmacy compounding, a transitional period from November 1 until the completion of the rulemaking process to repeal and revise CCNR's Article 4.5 and 7 is recognized by the board and their inspectors. Pharmacies must be in compliance with their PMPs, which shall remain congruent with either existing law or the new USP effective November 1. The board expects pharmacies to continually update their compounding practices to become consistent with the new USP, or beginning November 1 and until such time as the rulemaking process is completed for the proposed changes to CCNR Articles 4.5 and 7 relative to compounding, licensees are expected to implement USP general chapters as is consistent with BPC 4126.8. I feel that both of these statements are more of a policy and provide very clear guidance and remove ambiguity for your compounding licensees so that we know exactly what is expected of us. I very much thank you for your time, your attention, and your consideration. I look forward to a clear policy that I can implement in my practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kottman. Any other comments in Sacramento? Okay, seeing none, do we have any comments in Pasadena?
None in Pasadena.
Great, thank you, Mr. De La Paz. And I don't think we have anybody in San Diego at this time. Is that still correct?
Correct.
Great, thank you. We're ready for public comment for individuals participating via WebEx.
All right, this is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I've opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen, or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. And it looks like I do have a couple participants who have requested public comment. I'm going to start with our first raised hand, and then I'll move on to the Q&A, so please be patient. First, we have Marian Payek, and Marian, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
I'd like to thank Marie Kottman for her statement. Aligning with her statement, we would like to thank the board for its efforts to keep licensees informed as the effective date of the revised USP chapter approaches, and further thank the board for its acknowledgement that licensees may begin transitioning to these new requirements. However, we believe that additional clarification is needed regarding the draft compounding statement policy statement. Specifically, while the board acknowledges that licensees may begin transitioning to the USP's new requirements, including the new provisions related to establishing beyond use states.
I apologize, Marian. It sounds like maybe you're turning away from your microphone at certain points. I paused the timer. Could you go back a little bit and then just make sure you're facing your microphone?
Sure.
That sounds much better.
Okay, so I'll just start from specifically, while the board acknowledges that licensees may begin transitioning to USP's new requirements, including the new provisions related to establishing the beyond use dates, It is unclear whether licensees may transition to the new USP standards when doing so would violate California's current sterile compounding regulations. In such a situation, will the board be exercising enforcement discretions? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, this is a moderator. Our next individual who has requested public comment is John Gray. And John, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Good morning. This is John Gray. I'm a registered pharmacist with Kaiser Permanente. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments. First, we just want to commend the Enforcement Committee for drafting this policy statement and the board for discussing the statement today. We appreciate the board's efforts to ensure that the regulated public understands how the new USP chapters going into effect will impact the board's current compounding regulations, which, as we all know, are still far from being finalized. I do want to say that I think any of the options that Dr. Kottman offered to the board in her comments would be very reasonable approaches. I'll offer some alternatives for you to consider as well, just to give you a menu of options. We would like to encourage the board to use this policy statement to provide more definitive guidance to the regulated public on how it intends to approach situations in which a pharmacy is in compliance with the applicable USP chapters, but does not comply with the provision of the current compounding regulations that directly conflict with USP. For example, in the board's current regulations, compounding in a segregated compounding area is limited to low-risk compounding. However, this is not the case in the new USP chapters, which do not apply this risk-based compounding restriction to compounding in a segregated compounding area. Therefore, and there are several other examples of direct conflicts between USP chapters and the board's current regulations. That's just a topical example. Therefore, we recommend that the committee consider adding additional guidance on this matter to the policy statement. We're looking for something narrow, relatively narrow. We suggest something like the board intends to exercise enforcement discretion in cases in which a pharmacy is in compliance with the compounding chapters of USP and therefore Business and Professions Code, Section 4126.8, but does not comply with the directly conflicting provision in Article 4.5 and or Article 7 of Division 17 of Title 16 of the California Code of Regulations. Absent this level of clarity, the regulated public will be left guessing as to the board's approach to enforcing its current compounding regulations, particularly the elements that directly conflict with the new USP chapters. Thank you very much for the opportunity to provide comments today.
Thank you, Dr. Gray.
All right, this is the moderator. Our next individual has requested public comment, Keith Yoshizuka. And Keith, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Understood the subject matter. I withdraw my, lower my hand. No comment.
Oh, I apologize. All right, in that case, it looks like we have no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Please do. Thank you. Members, as you can see, the regulated public really do need a policy statement because there is concern and confusion. If you look at the last paragraph, we at the Compounding and Enforcement Committee hope to answer some of those questions in what we can put down that is legally possible within the scope of our authority. The specifics that we heard during the testimony are addressed in the proposed draft regulations, which are going through the process, and those are not on the agenda today. But those questions will be answered. They already asked. They will be answered as we go through the regulatory process. So this policy statement is to help to address the comments and concerns that we heard today. So members, do you have any additional comments? Members in Sacramento? Go ahead.
Yeah, so is there a way to bridge that divide of the concern that we're hearing, knowing that this is going through the regulation process? Is there some, so I guess I have two questions. First, is there language we can put in about the regulatory process? And I might have I just briefly looked at this, to address that concern and kind of give the timeline on that. And two, you said within our purview, so is it not within, looking at the testimony that was handed to us by Dr. Cotman, would it not be within the committee's purview to put in one of the two recommended blurbs here? Would that be outside, or how would that work?
So those are really good questions, and I will try to answer them within the scope of the agendized item. We have the opportunity to assist the regulated public with what are the thoughts of the board by having a policy statement. We cannot include in our policy statement things that would make or imply that our regulations are not enforceable. But we can imply that we are working through a transition period. And we've done that with other policy statements too, that we have a transition period. And in here is also talking a little bit about the timeline. We had hoped that it would be a little bit faster, but the regulatory process does take time and it is in process. I can't go into more specifics because that's not part of the agenda, but the policy statement, we attempted to answer those questions in the last paragraph. And then the third paragraph talks about the timing.
So my understanding is we can't preemptively void our existing regulation simply because there's upcoming regulation that's.
Well, that's not on the agenda.
Gotcha.
But yeah.
Okay.
Is that, okay. Any other questions from Sacramento?
This is Renee. I kind of I agree with Trevor in this, and then some of the comments that are made. I understand there's like some limitations. I don't have anything else to offer, but I do understand that there's conflicts, feeling like conflicts of what is the expectation and then what is the timing. But it sounds like we also can't be real specific. I mean, some of it because we don't know necessarily the end timing of the regulations. But I'm just gonna say that I would agree that there's just a lot of room for interpretation, and wondering how that will play out in terms of safety, for the public, but also providing enough guidance for, pharmacies to know how to prioritize or what to do or what timing. Other than USP has declared November 1st. Some of us work in environments where we are have oversight by other, just others in terms of, licensing or accreditation. So November 1st is a little more of a hard date, but others do not have that. So again, I don't have anything to offer, but I do see that some guidance would be helpful. But again, it sounds like we're somewhat limited in what we're able to offer. Just leave that. Go ahead.
Again, I think what I wanted to say is already covered by the two other members, but if we can guide the practitioners or pharmacies regarding some specific bullet points on training expected that needs to go between now and the implementation of new, I think that will be a good starting point if we can guide in some way, at least in bullet points, that these are the areas we would like you to update the SOP or train and document. I think there will be if possible.
That brings up a good point because in the committee, we had a lot of discussion on the desires of the pharmacy. I'm a pharmacist. I like lists. I like tell me what to do and I'll do it, that kind of thing. It is very difficult to do in the perspective of the board and the legal requirements and legal obligations. But if you notice the last sentence we kind of added something that was very specific about one area that is really important. And that is that the provisions relating to establishing beyond use dates, that standard operating procedures must be updated and staff appropriately trained prior to implementing the new practices and BUDs. So that's one area where people asked a lot of questions because that's very, very specific. And as a committee, we felt like we couldn't keep that gray. So it doesn't tell you how to do it because those things are still in flux. But that's the whole reason we're having a policy statement is the board. I've been very proud to be a part of many policy statements that the board has put out to help the regulated public in these situations where we're kind of stuck, where there is a timing factor where the regulations or the law is not in place yet. So I appreciate your comments. Any other comments in Sacramento?
Can I ask what would the consequences be of not having a policy statement? Would that create, give more leeway, less leeway if we did not pass a policy statement? Does that make I guess my question is if we're getting feedback that the policy statement is causing additional confusion, would not having a policy statement create even more confusion? What's the consequence of not having a policy statement?
That's a really good question too, because we're not required by law or regulation to put out policy statements. We do this at the total behest of our regulated public and patient safety to assist when there are transition issues to communicate. If we did not have a policy statement, I think there would be even more worry and concern and questions as to what to do with the ambiguity. Good questions. So any other questions in Sacramento before we go to Pasadena? I teed up Pasadena. Pasadena, we're ready for board member comments.
We don't have any comments here in Pasadena.
Great, thank you. I think we're ready for, we did public comment. Oh my goodness, I'm out of order here.
Just one closing comment for me, I would ask is to our staff to do their best to make sure inspectors stay as consistent as possible. I think that will be obviously the biggest challenge as we transition on November 1st and whatever the regulation comes about. So that's it's just my comment. I'm sure everyone would agree. That's the only thing I ask is if we can ensure that inspectors are well trained and communicated on what the expectation is. So that's all I would add.
Yeah, and tying in what President O said, I would also encourage the regulated public, if there is a discrepancy that you feel in enforcement that is resulting from this gray area, it's my personal hope that it's brought to the committee during public comment and future meetings so that we can be made aware of it and address it, because I want to make sure that this gray area doesn't result in any difference in enforcement as a result of confusion, and that we're doing it in an effective way.
The only, if I can just like caveat that a little bit. So sometimes pending investigations should not be discussed with the board to preserve you. And I'm not stating this very well, so Corinne, please jump in and save me here. But essentially that could potentially then create ex parte communication or whatever.
Got it. Understood.
Just to clarify, I don't think Trevor was asking for members of the public to reach out to board members, but to reach out to staff.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood then. I thought it was to the committee.
Oh, well, to the board, whether that's in staff, probably the more appropriate. But I hope one thing that staff is taking from this conversation is that we are hyper aware of this gray area as a board, and that it's a sensitivity that we want to make sure in any enforcement action is paid attention to as far as what that gray area is.
I think that's the end of the discussion. President O, I turn the meeting back over to you for the roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair Serpa. All right. We'll do with Sacramento first. Renee?
Yes.
Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, KK. Thank you. Thank you, Jig.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you, Indira in Pasadena.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes. The motion passes. All right, next agenda item 8, discussion and consideration of recommendations to delete previously approved new regulation text from proposed California CCR section 1733.7 subdivision E related to the use of respirators and 1737.18 related to medical surveillance. I am going to turn the meeting back over to Chairperson Serpa to report on the recommendation from staff to delete the previously approved language.
Thank you. This is very specific, and so I'll read it kind of slowly here so everyone understands. As included in the meeting materials, USP Chapter 800 provides standards for safe handling of hazardous drugs to minimize the risk of exposure to healthcare personnel, patients, and the environment. Consistent with the action taken by USP Compounding Expert Committee, USP Chapter 800 shall become compendial on November 1st, 2023. As you may recall, the Enforcement on Compounding Committee has met on several occasions to consider the new and revised USP chapters and the board's regulations to determine in the interest of public safety where changes are appropriate. Following the committee's work at the board's April 2023 meeting, the board approved language to begin the rulemaking process, which includes a proposed new Article 4.7 titled Hazardous Drugs. So we're about to start the rulemaking process for a language that was approved by the board. Consistent with the board's motion at this meeting, staff prepared the rulemaking file to initiate the rulemaking process. The board's motion at that time delegated the authority to the chair of the Enforcement and Compounding Committee and the executive officer to make non-substantive changes or clarifying language necessary consistent with the board's policy. So that's important. We were authorized to only do non-substantive and clarifying language. Through this process, we identified 2 specific areas of the proposed language related to the handling of hazardous drugs that may be appropriate to remove to avoid the potential conflict with Cal OSHA requirements. The proposed changes exceed our delegated authority provided to me as the chair and to the executive officer. Action of the board is necessary to remove the recommended language. Before I open up the discussion for the members and for the public, I'd like to highlight that this agenda item is very narrow. We're not going to talk about all the regulations related to USP. It's very specific to this agenda item. Opportunities for public comment on the rulemaking process for the entirety of all the regulatory languages regarding compounding is through the formal rulemaking process, which includes a 45-day comment period. There's a planned regulation hearing and subsequent discussion and consideration by the board for comments received during the public comment period. Members, the specific language for our consideration today is included in the attachment to this memo that you have in your materials. Consistent with the agenda, our action and discussion are limited solely to these 2 areas, which is to remove in proposed Article 4.7, subsection E of the proposed 1737.7 related to the use of respirators and appropriate to remove section 1737.18 related to medical surveillance. So if you look at your materials, you'll actually see the crossouts because it's kind of a little bit hard to follow what I'm saying. But if you look at your materials, you actually see the 2 areas that are being crossed out. I've considered the matter and appreciate staff bringing this issue forward to the board. I agree with the recommendations. Members, do you have any comments? As a part of your comments, I would welcome a motion if you believe such action is appropriate. I believe a motion is shown on the screen. Should that be appropriate? Members, any comments in Sacramento?
This is Renee. Yeah, just thank you for staff and everybody reviewing this. and I would make a motion to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
This is Jake, I'll second.
Big seconds. We're still asking members for their comments before, no, but that was good. No, I wanted a motion. Thank you. But we can, I just didn't want the people in Pasadena to think we skipped them. Members in Pasadena, do you have any comments or questions?
Sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt. Could we just make sure that what you're motioning is what is reflected on the screen there?
Oh, she'd like you to read it, Renee? Mhm.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend a motion. So prior to initiation of the formal rulemaking process, to update the previously approved regulation text for proposed Article 4.7, Section 1737.7, removing subsection E related to the use of respirators and removing Section 1737.18 related to medical surveillance.
Jig, is that okay for your second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you both. Members, before we go to public comment, do you have any comments in Pasadena?
Hi, Maria. This is Jessie. I do have a question. So just for clarification, this entire PPE section is new. Is that right? Or is this already existing language?
Let me look at it. I have to remind myself because some of the regulatory language that we proposed was previously existing and some of it was new. And you know what that specific section? I know that 18 was new. So that's now not going to be suggested, but in 17 subsection E, I believe was not in our regulation before either.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
But so when your question was, Jesse, was about the whole PPE section, there were parts of the PPE section that were in previous regulation, but it was reorganized into a new section and the new things were added. And so subsection E was one of the adds that we were removing now. It's not going to be added. Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, I was a little confused because everything is underlined, so I wasn't sure if everything was new. I guess my question was specific to subsection A. Was that already existing?
So to remind you about our previous board meetings is we rewrote a lot of the compounding language. So this section and this article are new. Parts of it were taken from existing language in other sections, and part of it was new to apply USP 800. So they're not all new issues, but it is new regulation because it's a new section and a new numbering.
And the discussion is limited just to 1737.7.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, we're only supposed to be talking about section E. That's the only agendized item, but hopefully the background helped a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Okay. Let's begin with public comment. We'll start with the Sacramento location. Do we have public comment on the motion shown on the screen?
Marie Kottman, PIC and owner at Pacific Compounding Pharmacy. I really appreciate you reviewing these and finding some of these discrepancies with other laws that we have to follow as well. So thank you very much. I'm very much in support of taking these out of your proposed for future rulemaking. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kottman. Any other comments in the Sacramento location? Okay, any comments from members of the public in the Pasadena location?
None from Pasadena?
Great. Are there any members of the public in San Diego? Did anybody arrive?
Not at this time.
Great, thank you. Moderator, we're ready for public comment from those participating via WebEx. As a reminder, public comment is focused solely to the agenda item related to the removal of subsection E and 1737.18 medical surveillance. Moderator?
Thank you. This is the moderator, and at the direction of the board, I have opened up the Q&A feature for public comment. Members of the public, if you would like to make a comment on this item, please click the Q&A icon located at the bottom right-hand corner of your WebEx screen or use the raise hand function. And audio-only participants may raise their hand by pressing *3 on their device. We'll pause a moment to allow the public time to access these features and submit their requests. All right, and it looks like we do have a request for comment from Andre Peterson. And Andre, you'll be given 3 minutes to speak and a 10-second warning. Please click the unmute me button when the prompt appears on your device.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. I would like to also express my thanks to the board for hearing the regulated public regarding these sections that are very problematic. And I also would like to thank the ongoing two-way conversation on the additional compounding, proposed compounding regulations that are still problematic and might impact our ability to care for patients as well as patient safety. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Peters.
All right, this is the moderator. It appears there are no further requests for public comment. Would you like me to close that Q&A panel?
Please do. Thank you. Bring the discussion back to the members. Do you have any additional comments before I turn the meeting over to President O for the vote? Great, thank you. President O, the discussion is finished, so I turn the meeting back to you for the vote.
Thank you, Chair Serpa. We'll go for the vote. Starting with Renee, how do you vote? Thank you, Renee. Trevor?
Yes.
Thank you, KK.
Yes.
Thank you, Jig.
Yes.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes.
Thank you. Back to Pasadena, Indira.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Yes.
Thank you, Jose.
Yes.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yes.
Thank you, and I vote yes, the motion passes. Okay, is our judge here? Judge Wong? Oh, perfect. Okay. All right. We got to get the petitioner set up, everything ready to go. Sarah, if you could please make sure all the petitioners are ready to go. We'll take a quick 5-minute break. So it's 10:39. We'll come back at 10:45. If you could make sure all the petitioners are ready to go, we're going to move our judge over to next to me. And we'll get started at 10:45. Sarah, if you can make sure that all the petitioners are in. We're starting with, as agendized, Mr. Patel, not Jake, Mr. Patel here, and then Fred Ibarra, and then the DNet Pharmacy, and then Afi Harmonious. Please correct my pronunciation. Thank you. Thank you. All right, we're getting back to our meeting. Next agenda item 9, petitions for reinstatement of licensure, early termination, or other modification of penalty as included on the agenda. We'll be considering several petitions today. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Administrative Law Judge Jessica Wall to preside over the hearings. And before I do, should I take a roll call? Okay, all right. We'll start with Renee.
Present.
Thank you, Trevor.
Present.
Thank you, KK.
Present.
Thank you, Jig.
Present.
Thank you, Jig. Maria.
Present.
Thank you, India.
President O, it's Nicole. I'm the only
Hi,
one
Nicole.
back in Pasadena at this
Oh
time.
my God, everyone's just enjoying their break.
We found a spot with some coffee, so.
Ah, all right. Well, we can't move forward without you guys being back, so we'll just wait for your return. Can you
I'll
just
let you
let
know
us?
when everyone gets here.
Okay, if you can just grab them and bring it back. Waiting for their return to establish quorum.
President O, everyone's back.
Perfect. We'll start with Miss Indira Cameron Banks.
Present.
Thank you, Indira. Jesse?
Present.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
Present.
Thank you. And Nicole?
Present.
Thank you. And I'm here. Hope you all enjoyed your coffee. And we'll turn the meeting over to our judge, Jessica Wall. Thank you, Judge Wall. The floor is yours.
Yep, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are here today to review 4 petitions. The matter is being heard before the Board of Pharmacy, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California. We have had all board members identify themselves, and we have a quorum. My name is Jessica Wall. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to hear this matter today. The first petition we will be calling is the matter of the petition for reinstatement of licensure of Nimesh Patel, agency case number 6239, OAH case number 2023090108. May I please have the appearance of the Deputy Attorney General for the record?
Yes, good morning. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. I understand that petitioner is represented by counsel in this matter. May I please have the appearance of the counsel for petitioner?
Thank you, Your Honor. Lucy McAllister appearing on behalf of petitioner Nimesh Patel.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister. Is Dr. Patel on camera? I just want to make sure that he is present.
He was originally at roll call, Your Honor.
Okay, so it's my understanding that he's present and we will proceed.
I'm here.
Thank you. So this matter is being electronically recorded. It is very important that everyone speaks loudly, slowly, and clearly. We can also only speak one at a time so that we have an accurate record. So we will begin with Ms. Jarvis introducing the petition packet and a background of the matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. This matter arose via an accusation which was filed on March 11th, 2018 against petitioner's pharmacist license as well as his pharmacy license, where he was the sole owner and the pharmacist in charge, or PIC. This is a corresponding responsibility case. This was exacerbated by petitioner filling prescriptions from at least 4 different providers over several years that not only contained a multitude of red flags, but also were written on non-compliant prescription forms, continuing to fill prescriptions for a physician that petitioner had reported to the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, under suspicion of writing illegal prescriptions, and then filling prescriptions for those same patients when they were issued by a different physician with the same red flags. Overall, there were 7 causes for discipline: failing to comply with corresponding responsibility, clearly excessive furnishing of controlled substances, dispensing controlled substance prescriptions with significant errors, omissions, irregularities, etc., dispensing controlled substances with prescriptions written on unauthorized forms, failing to exercise the best professional judgment, gross negligence, and unprofessional conduct. To get into the underlying facts a little bit, the prescriptions contained red flags such as the physician's offices being 30, 60, and 70 miles away from the pharmacy, patients paying cash, sometimes into the hundreds of dollars at a time, with no reimbursement sought from insurance or any other ability. Multiple patients with identical prescriptions from the prescriber filled those identical prescriptions at the pharmacy, the same pharmacy, on the same day. These prescriptions all had high abuse and diversion potential. They all prescribed promethazine with codeine, a full pint, 90 2-milligram alprazolams, and 180 30-milligram oxycodones. These prescriptions were identical with no adjustment for gender, age, weight, renal function, diagnoses, or any other factor whatsoever. Across multiple
physicians, these patients all pretty much had the same diagnosis. They were only ever prescribed the highest available amount of pain medication. In other words, there was no titration, there was no increase to see how the patient was handling the drugs, and these patients were never weaned off of the drugs when whatever pain condition that they were experiencing would have allegedly subsided. These physicians also never prescribed anything else that would normally be seen with these drugs, such as, for example, with the promethazine, possibly an antibiotic or an other respiratory medication that you would generally see. Then, as I stated earlier, in 2014 and 2015, petitioner filled similar prescriptions. So let me back up a step. In 2013, the petitioner had reported one of these physicians to the DEA. He then continued to fill prescriptions for that physician for an additional week, 6 days. Later in 2014 and then into 2015, petitioner filled, again, identical prescriptions for the same patients written by a different prescriber. And again, these patients were coming from 30, 60, 70 miles away from this pharmacy to fill at this pharmacy. Petitioner also charged 3 times the acquisition cost for the oxycodone that he was selling for cash, 25 times the acquisition cost for the promethazine with codeine, and 8 times the acquisition cost for the hydrocodone. For approximately 2 years, petitioner dispensed prescriptions written by at least 4 different prescribers on non-compliant prescription forms, which missed required security elements such as the watermark, an identifying number assigned to an approved security printer, a lot number for the form, or the forms being numbered sequentially. In aggravation, in January of 2012, petitioner had received citations against both himself and his pharmacy for failing to have appropriate policies and procedures for issues of theft or staff impairment, and for violating 7 regulations regarding drug compounding. Therefore, effective February 27th of 2019, petitioner stipulated to surrender both his pharmacy and his pharmacist license. 3 years have passed, and so petitioner is now eligible to petition for reinstatement. With his petition, petitioner provided the following documents. Petitioner has paid the ordered $21,626 in investigation and prosecution costs. Petitioner submitted 77 hours of continuing education, of which 69 hours were qualified and were taken from January of 2021 to August of 2023. Petitioner provided 7 letters of recommendation, 6 of which were able to be verified by board staff. Unfortunately, that 7th person had actually passed away between the time they submitted the letter and the time that board staff was attempting to validate it. I will note that petitioner's surname is Patel. This is a very common surname. However, I wanted to point out that 5 of the letters that were submitted in recommendation also shared that name. In addition, there are 2 other Patels within the petition packet in the charity that petitioner works for, and 1 other. And so I would like petitioner to address any familial relationship with any of these other individuals who share his surname. Additionally, I would like to call the board's attention to 2 matters. First, on the 2nd page of the memo, which is page AGO 002, under the heading Licensing Status, the memo states that petitioner was first licensed on April 16th of 2021. That's not possible, as he was revoked in 2019, so this was just a typographical error. It should read April 16th of 2001. Then on page, let me skip that. That was already addressed, actually. Petitioner's attorney also provided a packet of rehabilitation and mitigation evidence, wherein she goes through the procedural history of the matter. But then on page AGO 14, there is a different typographical error of the date that petitioner was first licensed. In that case, the document says April 16th of 2011. So I checked 2 different places to confirm, but I do believe that petitioner was first licensed in 2001. So if we can keep that in mind as we're reviewing some of these facts and details. All right. In addition, with the petition packet, petitioner's counsel provided proof of payment of the cost recovery, the bill of sale for the pharmacy, a letter from a foundation that works in India confirming that petitioner donates time, money, and has financially adopted children through the foundation. There are 2 research articles that petitioner has conducted and written since, I believe, since the revocation. And there were 2 patents that have been awarded to petitioner as a result of his research. There are also several certificates of completion of mental health education classes and 2 evaluations from a psychotherapist issued approximately 8 months apart and after a course of psychotherapy, both of which find petitioner safe to practice and go through a description of the therapy that petitioner has undergone over the past year to 2 years. There's also the psychotherapist's resume, petitioner's resume, a list of 31 articles and 9 books relating to the practice of pharmacy and pharmaceuticals that petitioner has reviewed since his license was revoked, and then the continuing ed certificates and the letters previously mentioned. So at this time, I would like to identify Exhibit 1 just as the notice of hearing and the agreement for electronic recording, essentially jurisdictional documents that bring us here today, and ask that those documents be submitted as Exhibit 1.
Ms. McAllister, any objection?
No objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 1 is admitted for jurisdictional purposes.
Thank you. Then Exhibit 2 is the petition packet consisting all of the documents that I have just described. There's also a memorandum to the board submitted by board staff, and then the underlying decision and order. I will note that there are 3 documents at the very end, or 3 pages, it's the same document. At the very end, after the underlying decision and order, this is an unusual place for them to be in this petition packet. We would usually have moved them up earlier, but they were submitted after the documents were all bait stamped. So they got to be at the tail end of the packet. So when you get to the underlying decision and order, keep going. There's one more document after that. All of those documents together, I have marked as Exhibit 2, and I would ask that they be admitted for all purposes.
Ms. McAllister, any objection?
No objection.
Thank you. Exhibit 2 is admitted for all purposes.
Thank you, Your Honor. That completes the presentation. I will cede the floor to petitioner.
Thank you. Ms. McAllister, if you would like to call your client first, or would you like to call a witness first? I think I heard something during the break about you having a witness.
Yes, we do have a witness, Your Honor. And if I could just ask, is there any time limitation the court would like us to respect?
My understanding is that there is not one. Let me check with President O. No, there's not.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, in a brief opening statement, my client would like to address this panel by acknowledging his full acceptance and responsibility of his prior conduct, the conduct that led to the surrender of his license. He also would like to make it clear in his comments that he expects to request that his pharmacist license be reinstated, but he will make it clear that he is not attempting to reestablish owning a pharmacy or participating in the activities that led to the surrender of his license and the license of his pharmacy. He has submitted a significant amount of mitigation and rehabilitation evidence that he would like to bring to the court's attention. And ultimately, Your Honor, he will speak to his motivations now, which are how he can address, understand, and not only respect the existence of what became an opioid crisis, but most importantly, how he can be a part of the solution. The court will hear his testimony about his research and patents and the activities that he's done in order to participate in that solution process. We will then, at the conclusion of his statements, he will present evidence from the licensed psychotherapist, the licensed psychotherapist, Jerry Murmas, who will describe to the court the assessment done for Mr. Patel and all of the processes of psychotherapy, the introspection that Mr. Patel has participated in, so that Mr. Murmas can ultimately conclude that, in his professional opinion, Mr. Patel is ready, willing, able to serve the public as a licensed pharmacist. And at this time, Your Honor, I'd like to call my client, Nimesh Patel.
Okay, so is it Mr. Patel or Dr. Patel? What is your preference?
I will say Mr. Patel right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patel. Could you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide in today's hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. And Ms. McAllister, you may question your client.
Thank you. Mr. Patel, at this point, would you like to, in your own words, make a statement about your history becoming a pharmacist and what you find and believe led to your psychological crisis that ended in the surrender of your license?
Sure. I have written down, all my thoughts in this paper. So let me start. So, Your Honor and Board of Pharmacy members, thank you for giving me your time to address you. The opioid crisis has devastated communities across the nations since 1990, and it's getting worse every single year. And drug diversion is the single most contributing factor for this opioid crisis. Drug diversion impacts all, including the healthcare workers, co-workers, patients, and the community. The shockwave associated with one single diversion event can have a significant impact. A pharmacist is a frontline public healthcare worker who is a trusted member of the community and the last line of defense against the opioid crisis. But due to the stressful job demands and access to the highly addictive medication, healthcare workers are at elevated risk of drug diversion. Healthcare workers may be diverting medication for personal use, used by friends and family, or for profit. Unfortunately, I was the part of this diversion because of my financial obligation or greed, and I got punished for my act rightfully. I would like to share my story that how I got in this situation, what I did to improve myself morally and ethically, and why I am applying for the reinstatement for my pharmacist license. I graduated from pharmacy school in 1993 in India and started working in research and development at pharmaceutical company in India. I came to USA in 1997 and worked as an intern pharmacy at Walmart and Rite Aid. When I became pharmacist in 2001, I worked with Walgreens till 2009, including brief time as a pharmacy manager. In my last few years at Walgreens, I was worn out by heavy workload, so I decided to open my own community pharmacy in 2009 so I can work on my own and help the community. I was lucky to get pharmacy location in medical building with orthopedic, dental, cosmetic surgery, pain management, oral surgery center, and family practice doctor. Because of the type of doctors around my pharmacy, we were getting many controlled prescriptions, and over the time, I was getting very reluctant to fill the controlled prescription. Meanwhile, I decided to open my second pharmacy in 2013. All my problems started after opening this pharmacy because my second pharmacy was running at loss and I had to work at my second pharmacy by myself to save the money. To run my first pharmacy, I had to hire 2 pharmacists, so I was in stress to pay the staff salary as well as to pay the expense for keeping both pharmacies running. At this stage, my goal was to just keep filling as many prescriptions as possible and get the money. With this money-minded behavior made me slip in my moral and ethical standard and failed to perform my corresponding responsibility in filling controlled prescription. I realized of my mistake when a medical board audited in 2016 for one nurse for whom we were filling prescription, including controlled prescriptions. At that time, I realized I got involved in this opioid diversion, and I was doing harm to community against my greed to keep my both pharmacy. I decided to sell my second pharmacy and came back to the first pharmacy in mid of 2016 to control the damage I had done. But it was too late, and I got the board inspection in 2017. After the accusation filed, I learned more about my mistake, and I tried my best to put policy and procedure to prevent filling of red flag prescriptions, checking PDMP profile to make sure patient is not doing pharmacy hopping or doing early refills for controlled drugs. Make sure the patient and doctor is local, checking the doctor license is valid, checking prescription is on DA authorized prescription pad, and the quantity of the drug prescribed is within the limit by law and the CDC guidelines. I knew that I had made a mistake and I need to get punished for what I have done. So when board asked me to sell my pharmacy, I surrendered my license, and I did that in 2019 without any contest. Since I surrendered my license, I had enough time to look at my mistakes to understand why I did that mistake. And I come to the conclusion that I was greedy and I didn't understand that how my negligence towards the filling of controlled substance for red flag prescription can impact the well-being of the society. To educate myself more about the opioid epidemics and how pharmacists can be the gatekeeper from expediting this crisis, I took multiple CE classes as well as mental health and wellness courses to deal with my any future stress. Also, I am now more proactive towards educating my friends, family, and past colleagues about the danger of the drug diversion. I wish I should have taken these CE classes long before so I could be more educated before about the risk of drug diversion, and I could have avoided those mistakes from happening. After losing my license and business, I was devastated, but my spiritual belief had saved me. I started to going more often to the temple and get involved in community service at temple. This activity made me happy and reduced some of my guilt. So I started to find a way to help more people by utilizing my education. With this motivation, in 2020, I started developing drug combination to treat recurrent infection in urinary tract infection, lung infection in asthmatic patients, infection in patient with catheter implants, and post-surgery infection. My first patent published in 2021. I started working on second product in 2022 for drug delivery system for peptide protein and antibodies by utilizing calcium phosphate matrix to enhance the stability at room temperature and to increase the viability, and I filed the provisional patent in 2023. As I was a part of the opioid epidemic problem, now I want to be part of the solution by developing the multi-layer naloxone buccal delivery system for OTC use that can give the opioid overdose reversal in less than 5 minutes and can sustain it for 90 minutes so that it can save the lives from opioid overdose. If Board of Pharmacy give me one more chance to prove myself and reinstate my license, I would like to work part-time at any pharmacy where I don't have any additional financial gain from working there and devote my rest of life in research and development. By my past mistake, I know that I'm bad as a business person, but I'm good as a human being. With that experience, I'm never going to open pharmacy business again. Thank you for listening to me.
So, Mr. Patel, let me ask you some questions so that you can elaborate on some of the comments that you've made, directing your attention to naloxone, Naloxone. With this particular delivery system, what have you been working on, and why is it relevant to an opioid overdose patient?
So, like right now, there is a two type of naloxone is available in market. Like one is intramuscular and one is intranasal. So intramuscular gives you the effect less than like in 5 minutes, but it has a high peak and then it released the half-life is shorter. So it has only effect for like 10-15 minutes only. So you have to give the repeated dosage. Same thing with the nasal delivery system. It has like peak effect after like 8 to 15 minutes, but it has a longer duration. So I'm trying to develop the product which can give the, the instant results like less than 5 minutes and sustain the product peak, for like at least, 45 minutes to 90 minutes. So with one patch application, you have the, the longer effect of the drug reversal.
When you spoke about wanting, excuse me, to have your pharmacist license reinstated so that you could work part-time, is it your intent to work part-time to carry on with any and all of your research?
Yeah, because what happened, like all these idea of doing the product research that came by working in the pharmacy. Because when you work in pharmacy, you know what people is going through, like what health problem they have and what medication treatment is lacking. And by utilizing that, I try to solve the problem. So by working in the pharmacy, like what to do. And also like in working in pharmacy, if you can help only one person, then I will think that my life and my education doesn't go to waste.
And in your petition, you submitted a great deal of information about your research, and you also provided patent documents.
Yes.
What have you received patents for?
So I get the patent for two products, one for the recurrent infection, because right now there is no treatment for the recurrent infection. Generally, whenever they have the infection, you just give the antibiotic, and after a few months, that infection comes again, you give another antibiotic. And you need to understand like why the recurrent infection happens. So when bacteria gets, in the body, some of the bacteria attach to the epithelial cell with their flagella or pili, and it makes the colony grow and they make the biofilm. So when you take the antibiotic, it only kills the good, like the free floating bacteria, but there is no effect of antibiotic underneath the biofilm. So after some time, that bacteria from the colony under the biofilm goes to the other place and, try to establish another colony. So at that time you get the secondary infection. So I'm trying to develop the product which has antibiotic, serrapeptidase, and D-mannose. D-mannose, attach with the flagella of the bacteria, so it doesn't attach to the epithelial cell. And the serrapeptidase, is a proteolytic enzyme that dissolves the biofilm. So like when you take the serrapeptidase and D-mannose, it prevents the biofilm formation as well as attachment to the epithelial. And when you take the antibiotic, all the bacteria is in free floating state. So it kills all the bacteria. So you don't get the recurrent infection.
And when did you start to work on your method for making oral delivery system for pharmaceuticals? Did that occur subsequent to the surrender of your license?
Yes, like I was trying to help, like, find a solution, like where I can help the people most. So like in this delivery system too, like, people, most of the peptides, proteins, and antibodies, you have to, deliver by either the IV, intramuscular, or the subcutaneous. And many times you get the antibody reaction from that, and also you have to carry it in refrigerated state, and also you have to use the injections. So I was trying to develop the product which can be, stable at room temperature and has a viability like by the oral route. So that's why I was developing this combination product, like the peptide delivery system.
And you say was. Do you continue to engage?
I'm still working on it.
Yes. And have you received a second provisional patent?
Yes, like we just did the research, like animal study in India to compare my product against the commercially available product. And it came like 30 times better than the commercially available product, like in terms of the oral form.
You also participated in a significant amount of reading and appreciating of pharmaceutical literatures. Why was it important to you in your rehabilitative process to do this?
I try to read the, like where the, like what people try to solve the problem and why it failed. and what I can do better, utilizing their education and their trial to implement in my, product development.
And was this part of your process in achieving your goal of having your license reinstated?
And no, actually, I just want to, help at that time, to help more people or, do something. I want to prove myself at that time. That's all I had in my mind. Nothing to do about, reinstating my license or nothing. But, after doing this work and like right now, the problem for me, like, all the research work right now I have to do in India. I couldn't do it here in US because I'm not licensed pharmacist. So I had to go forth and back to India, and it's time consuming and it's the cost wise is too expensive too.
And do you believe that you have the capacity to help your public here in the United States?
Yes, that's my goal that, I want to open the research lab at least here in US so I can work further.
You also participated in a great deal of continuing education from 21 to 22. What was your goal in participating in this continuing education? Did you hope to stay current in your understanding of the pharmacy protocols at this stage?
Yeah, like what I did the mistake, I was not happy with the, like how it, happened. So I want to educate myself that, why, I miss all that point. I need to get educated more myself to see, like how in future, like even somebody I can ask me, for the advice, I can tell them what is the right thing and what is not wrong. And doing the CE, I learned a lot, like I learned more about, these epidemics, how these drugs works and, what you have to look to, like prevent that, like how you can identify the people who really needs the, the pain medication and who is just, the people there to abuse the medication.
And can you give some more specific examples? What do you mean when you're talking about checking the PDPM? What are some of the protocols?
Is a PDMP profile. So here you can see, like where the patient fill the prescription, where they fill, like do they do the early refills or not, what other pain medication or any control medication they are getting. So you can review that profile, and by using that you can take the judgment that like did they started medication like first time, or they are gradually like increasing the medication or decreasing the medication. You can find it out, that information.
And what about your failing to communicate with the doctors or reviewing whether or not the prescriptions seemed medically appropriate?
Like during 2013 or before that, like I was more, like morally and ethically, I was not, that in good shape. My goal was just to fill the prescription. That was my final goal at that time. And I think I missed big time on that one, that, I should have performed my corresponding responsibility at that time.
And in order to address these moral failures, did you react introspectively by seeking therapy?
Yes, I took the Open Health Wellness Program, and I take the grief and loss, self-esteem, then meditation modules, and like to how to reduce the stress and how to be, keep your moral and ethical standards in place. And after that, like I got with Mr. Jeremy Mermis, who is a mental health therapist, and he helped me a lot, like keeping my mind and, my standards in place.
And when you say you got with, have you been working with Mr. Mermis over the last year?
Yes, I do.
And if given the opportunity by him, would you continue to work with Mr. Murmas under, even if your license was reinstated?
Yeah, he's a nice guy. Like whenever any problem has, even yesterday, I was a little bit nervous for this hearing, and I talked to him, and he helped me too, a lot. So yeah, he will be with me, I guess, for the whole life.
And did he assist you in the process identifying insights into your own mental health and your background to understand how you got to a place of basically abandoning your ethics?
Yes, he go like one by each things in detail, and he identify like why he made me realize that, why I did that mistake. What should had I done different, and how I can improve myself, for the future.
And in addition to your intellectual and emotional awareness, have you taken classes, and do you have a better understanding of what would be a quote red flag prescription?
Yes, I had like most of this, like 60 or 70 courses I have done. Mostly I have done on this, like opioid epidemic, pain medication management, all that, most of the classes I have done in that. So I can identify like what is red flag, what to look for, like check the PDMP profile, do the titration for the medications, and check with the doctor to make sure they are, like following the protocol according to the CDC or not.
And if you were to find a red flag prescription, do you have an understanding of what your responsibilities are?
Yes, like I have to make sure the patient and doctor is local. Make sure the patient is new. If the patient is new to the pain medication or control medication, make sure they start with the low dose. Like in pain medication, CDC guidelines saying that just for 7 days with a low dose. If it is not titrated, if that doesn't work, then they can titrate and increase the dose. So that things I know. And for the other thing, like for the DEA authorized prescription form, I had, like missed that part. So like in future, if I had to fill the prescription, I prefer like if the doctor can give me the electronic prescription.
And do you feel that you have the personal strength to reject a potential patient/customer at a pharmacy where you might work and indicate that you cannot fill the prescription?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
Yes. Do you feel that you have the personal strength to be able to, once identified a red flag prescription, to communicate to the potential customer that you cannot fill that prescription?
Yes, I definitely. And then I can refer to, talk to the doctor also. And I can consult with the doctor too, like why is the red flag prescriptions.
And do you think that that's a responsibility of yours now to not only reject the purchase, but also communicate with the prescribing doctor?
Yes, that's my responsibility. And it's not only for me. I think right now, most of the pharmacists now, they are following the same principle.
And you mentioned not wanting to own your own pharmacy or participate in running a pharmacy in the future. Can you elaborate on why?
I don't want to go in that, the same situation where, I trap in the greed. So I want to stay away from that. I don't want to be a part of that anymore. I better, like do the best what I can do, like, just working for somebody, and I can help the people, by working under with somebody.
And as you've been going through this rehabilitation process, have you participated in any type of volunteer work?
Yes, like when I lose my license, I was not in good shape at that time. So I started going to temple And in Temple, like, I work doing the volunteer work. And I think the attorney asked me like why my all the letters is Patel, because that was the only place I was, go there freely and interact with more people. And most of the people like, my customers, like not the customer, but the people who write my letter, I come to know over there at the temple. So that's why they are Patels, and only like two customers, Mr. Livingston and Mrs. Reader. They were my past customer who were coming to the River Pharmacy, and they write my recommendation letter.
Let me help you.
I'm going to take a second just to interrupt and just remind everyone that the board has had the benefit of reading the petition packet, so you don't need to repeat anything within it. Just expand upon and highlight the things that are most important within it. Thank you.
Let me assist you by identifying the name of Kirk Patel. Can you
Yes.
identify whether or not this is an individual who is related to you?
No, he's not related to me, but he's a friend of mine. Like we played the volleyball together, and also he is a pharmacist. He is a member of the IPA too, Indian Pharmacist Association. So I met him over there. So that's
And the individual by the name of Ritesh Patel.
Ritesh Patel. No, he's not related to me. He's a friend. Like he also goes to the temple regularly, and he's also a IPA member.
And Tapan Patel.
Tapan Patel, I just know him since 2019. So Tapan bought my pharmacy. That's how I come to know.
And Deepa Patel.
Deepa Patel, she's a friend of my wife, and she also goes to the temple. And that's how we know. Like I work there, just part-time to help her out in accounting.
Roshan Patel.
He's my neighbor. And their parents, they were my customers.
So would it be fair to say that none of the Patels who've written letters of recommendation are blood relatives of yours?
No, none of them is blood relatives.
And at this point, if your license were reinstated, why should the board trust you to be able to effectively, adequately serve the public?
I know it's hard to trust me by my past mistakes, but probably because I'm as a bad business person, but I'm good at heart. I try to help the people. Even when I was running my pharmacy, I was managing the camp for diabetes, blood screen, like a high blood pressure and medication management for the seniors. So I try to help the people, and that with that goal, I try to do more in research side, and if like part-time in pharmacy. So even if I can help one person, that would be great.
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister and Mr. Patel. We'll now go to Ms. Jarvis for some questions.
Thank you, Your Honor. To continue sort of that recent line of questioning, Chandra Patel, to whom you sold your pharmacy, are they a relative?
I think he's a Tapan Patel. That's the guy I know him.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your answer.
The Tapan Patel, that's the
No,
person.
Chandra Patel, to whom you sold the Riverwalk Pharmacy?
Oh, I think Chandra Patel, I don't know him, but Chandra Patel and Tapan Patel, they are the partners. And
Okay.
Tapan Patel write the recommendation letter for me.
And then Praveen Patel is the president of the foundation that you've done some volunteer work with. Is that a relative?
No, he's not.
Now, are you familiar with the board's standard probation terms?
I know. Actually, it says like for probation is 5 years. Depend upon, like how severe the cases is. 3 to 5 years.
Have you ever reviewed the board's disciplinary guidelines?
Yes.
In those disciplinary guidelines, there's a list of numerous terms that are sort of the standard probation conditions. Do you recall reviewing those in the past?
I like when I get the accusation file at that time, I did read that.
So do you understand that if your license were to be reinstated after this procedure, that you would be required to serve a term of probation?
Yes.
Are you willing to comply with the board's probation terms as set forth in the disciplinary guidelines?
Yes, I do.
Now, I just want to be very clear about the underlying conduct here. You did know that the prescriptions that you were filling were suspect at the time that you filled them, but it sounds like you filled them because you needed the money to support the second location, pharmacy location that was struggling. Is that correct?
That's right. Totally right.
I have no other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. We'll now go to President O to poll the board members. Thank you.
Sure. We'll just go by location. So if Renee?
I don't have any comments or questions.
Thank you. Trevor?
What would you say was the impact you had on the opioid epidemic as part of what you did? What would you say is, how, in what way would you say you contributed to the opioid epidemic?
By filling, controlled prescription without looking at the prescription is right or not, like basically doing my corresponding responsibility. If I had followed that, I have stopped so many prescriptions from filling that prescriptions.
Mm-hmm. And with the folks that you were filling these prescriptions for, were any of them familiar to you to the extent where you remembered them the next time they came in?
No.
No?
No, I don't know. Like I was just filling the prescriptions, as many as can.
Mm-hmm. And so if you were to get your license back, in what way do you think getting your license back would allow you to help repair some of the damage that has been caused by the opioid? Is there something that you think you can do with your license to repair the damage that you could not do without your license?
The two things, like first, like in these IPA meetings and all that, I cannot go anymore because I'm not a registered pharmacist. So if I can go there, I can at least, like put my views, like what I go through. And I can tell the people, all the pharmacists that, better you do your corresponding responsibility. Learn, what is about this opioid epidemic and try to, because they are the gatekeeper, like they are the main piece of this opioid, like to prevent this opioid epidemic. And second thing, I try to still like do best what I can to develop the product, which can save the life of opioid epidemic by making, this naloxone product, buccal delivery system.
Thank you.
Thank you, Trevor. KK?
Hello, Mr. Patel. As you have showed through your a lot of ethics training in last 2, 3, 4 years, that you have learned or acquired new skills regarding that. So if you are to go back to practice, and by any means opioid pandemic hasn't gone away, so in your practice, there's likely to have conflicts with your newly acquired or newly affirmed values versus what you're gonna encounter. Now, obviously, I would like to assume that your reaction would be different, but how are you preparing yourself for that future conflict that you probably had a different reaction in the past, but now with your 3-4 year suspension and your new training, you probably equipped to handle differently. So how are you preparing yourself for that conflict?
So before, I was not following any procedures, like not following, the guidelines, set by law and regulations set by the pharmacy board or the CDC guidelines. So like by taking these multiple CE classes and by, following this, the proper guidelines that, like follow the, like the quantities of the prescription, if it is new patient or not, see if the patient is terminally ill or not, or, like why they are using the medications, check with the doctor to get the proper diagnosis. So I'm trying to get all the, the things so I can fill and do my corresponding responsibility. I think, I don't know, I answer your questions or not.
I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Jay?
No more questions?
Thank you, KK. Jay?
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Yes, thank you. I have a few questions. Mr. Patel, your package was very detailed in the activities that you've accomplished over the last 4 years. But I was hoping that you could kind of summarize as to what specifically have you done to educate yourself about the corresponding responsibility and the specific issues of a pharmacist involved with dispensing prescriptions and particularly opioids.
So like after the 2016, like before I surrendered my license, I had already put the procedure and guidelines, like what type of medications, when the controlled drugs comes, what you have to look for, like including the checking the PDMP, get the diagnosis, make sure it's on the valid DA form. And also like the check the, like CDC guidelines to find it out, the medication is within the, the law and regulations and within the CDC guidelines. If it is not within the guidelines, then, like we have to recommend doctor to make sure they change the, the quantity or the day supply of the medications. I think that's all I did, like whatever the main mistakes I was, lacking, like I did, I tried to solve that problem, and I did did the C classes more in that area.
Can you just clarify when you said the CDC guidelines, what are you referring to?
So CDC guidelines, is saying that, okay, like for the new patient, you only prescribe for 7-day medication. Also, like they have to try non-opioid medication first. And if the non-opioid medication doesn't work, then they can go on the opioid, but opioid only for 7 days with a lower dose amount. If that doesn't work, then you have to titrate and increase the dosage, but within the limit. So these are the CDC's guidelines on that one. Also, like for the children, no codeine drug, so there is a quite information available from the CDC.
Did you attend the board's diversion program, which educates pharmacists about how to recognize diversion opportunities and deal with them?
Yes, matter of fact, I attend after the accusation file, but yeah.
So you did attend the board's, it's a whole day long program?
Yes, like I went to the Sacramento, I think.
I didn't see that in your CE, so I wanted to know about that. What about the board's ethics program? Did you
Ethics
participate in
program,
that?
yes, I did like every year, the 1 hour board's ethic program they do. Yes.
So you did that, it's not the full ethics program, but you did a 1 hour CE?
Yes.
Okay. And then lastly, just real quick, I'd had some questions about your research information. I think during your testimony, you kind of answered my question a little bit. This is ongoing research that's occurring in India that you're participating in,
That's
right?
That's right.
And so that answers one question. The other question, because you had a lot of detailed in there, where is this information published and who are the co-authors and how are you working with them? Because it kind of implied that you were working on this independently. And now during your testimony, you talked about maybe working with a pharmaceutical company or a university or something like that.
Yeah, actually I work with like I publish, like all my data with my patent attorney, like in India. But like my work has done like with Auxila Pharma in India, who is a CDC, like a CRO company, who is doing the drug development, like pre-formulation studies, as well as the clinical study, and also the analytical lab in India too, where they like once the Auxila Pharma develops the product, they can do the stability studies and all that. So basically, I do like 3 companies, in India, like Auxila, Gorang's analytical lab, and the patent attorney who is doing the filing for the patent.
Okay, great. Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you, Maria. Indira, any comments, questions?
None, thank you.
Thank you. Jesse?
Thank you. Yes, I do have a couple questions. Sorry, bringing up my notes right now. My first question is in regards to your focus on mental health. If I remember correctly, in your petition packet, you began working on your mental health and seeing a therapist about a year ago. Is that right?
That's right.
My first question is, why did you wait so long to see someone to focus on your mental health?
I think that's the time I think, is I need to do. But I was already improving myself. Like after the 2020, I started going to the temple. And after going to the temple, like it helped make me happy. But still I had that guilt, back in my mind that, why I did that, what I had, So like for that, I did that open wellness program. And from that, I did search to see, like where I can get more information, where they can increase my, the self-esteem and, help me, progress in life. So that's how I come to know Mr. Jeremy Mermis.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
My other question is in regards to your research. Seems pretty impressive, and it seems like you get a lot of fulfillment out of it. So what is it that you hope to gain by working as a part-time staff pharmacist that you're not currently getting through your research?
Like, as I told you, that all my 3 ideas came from working in the pharmacy, because you need to know like what medication treatment is going on right now. You need to, like in touch with, like all the current medications to find the problem. Like even the product is approved, there might be some, problem in that therapy and how I can improve it. To learn that, I have to work in pharmacy. So that's why my plan is not to work full time, even like 1 or 2 days if I can work, that's all I'm asking.
Great. I don't have any other questions. Thank you, Mr. Patel.
Thank you, Jesse. Jose?
Yes. So in some of your statements, you mentioned that, you got in trouble because you didn't follow the law. And 2 of the items that you highlighted were the stressful aspects of the job and the demands, and then the financial obligations, and then your own words, being greedy. I heard in some of your statements that you've dealt with your mental health, through a therapist, and that's helped mitigate that stress. But can you elaborate on what you've done to mitigate some of that risk, or around greed, or the greediness portion of what you went through? How have you dealt with that, and what's changed?
So yeah, I learned the hard way, like by going to temple, I learned that, the money is important, but that should not be your final goal, So, and that's why, I'm doing all this research work, to help the people. I'm not going to manufacture product down the road. Like probably this research work, I can give it to the, the big company, so they can have better expertise to, do the manufacturing. Other thing also, like I also adopted 3 kids in India. So I'm not bragging about that, but that, like money, as I told you, money is necessary, but not the final goal. You shouldn't, like nobody has to run after the money. Only, like to earn the money, only up to survive,
Okay, thank you. And so just a follow-up. So is your R&D research and patents, are they going to be open source and free of licensing? So is there any gain off your patents, or are you going to allow those to be utilized without any royalties or licensing?
I need to, like what are the money, I paid, for my research, I had to get paid. So it will be not, the open source, like I will sell it to the company for the price, yeah.
So there is a financial gain driving the research.
Some like, so I can do more research for my other product.
And so the licensing being reinstated, that would help with your R&D tying to more research, tying to a financial gain. Is that correct?
Not the finance again, but I should have the money, to do other research work. Without, like right now, I cannot, even if I want to do it, I don't have that much research to do the, the study here in US.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Nicole?
No questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Just have one question for you, Ms. Patel. I believe if we do grant, most likely we'll grant with approbation terms and then exam requirements. So just wanted to check if you would be, if you're aware of that and if you are, would be okay taking the exam, both CPA and NAPLEX, as well as probation terms.
Yeah, I will see, like most likely, yes, I will. But more I want to do research side. So, but yes, I try to do as much as possible of what I can do to reinstate my license.
Okay, thank you. No further questions. Back to you, Judge Wong.
Thank you, President O. So before we finish up, I'll check with Ms. McAllister if she has any additional questions, and then I'll check with Ms. Jarvis again whether she has any additional questions.
Of this witness, Your Honor, and then I did intend to call the second witness. Mr. Patel, you were asked some questions about financial gain and whether or not your research was focused on the financial gain. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what, as you go through the research process and your desire to do more research, how will receiving funds from that assist you in the continuum?
So my whole goal, to do the, open the research lab here in USA, so I can do more research work, like even like right now, my first product, I only able to do the research work in the urinary tract infection, but I had to do the research in the, the post-operative therapy for the implantation, catheter implantation, as well as the cystic fibrosis or asthmatic patient. And all this research required the, the money to do the, work. So my goal right now here is not to become, get too much money and, I'm here, like, even if I have to do, like, give it to the, the university, I might do it, but, on only condition that I can also, let me work there at free of charge so I can do more research like that.
And have you, throughout this process of working with Mr. Mermis, have you been able to address the issue of stress and how stress can ameliorate a person's value system?
Yes, stress like affects your nervous system, and it can, make you, a good person or the bad person. So like if you know how to, reduce the stress and, you know how to control it, you can be a better person.
And is it your plan that as you continue to meet your goals to contribute to society, to also carry on with all of the mental health activities that you've described here to help with life's stress?
Yes, like I will do. That's why I'm going to continue with Mr. Jeremy Mermis, like whenever I need any help, he will be always there.
Thank you. No further questions.
Ms. Jarvis, do you have any additional questions?
No follow-up. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. So, President O, do you want to do the lunch break now or do the additional witness before lunch?
It's 11:53, depending on how long it may take. We're hoping to go to lunch by 12:15, so I'm sure it'll be quick, so we'll try
Okay.
to just
Okay, so we'll do the next
power
witness.
through.
Thank you. At this time, Your Honor, we'd like to call Jerry Mermis. He did indicate he would need to have his video screen turned on.
All right, if I could have the tech folks help out with this.
This is the moderator. Unfortunately, I'm not able to turn on people's
Okay.
videos. But
He's already connected as a panelist, so he should be able to just turn on
correct.
on his app or phone or device, whatever he's using. I learned how to provide technical advice here, so
There we
you
go.
President O fixed the problem. All right, I see Mr. Murmis present. So Mr. Murmis, before you testify, I need to swear you in. Can you please raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will provide in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Are you muted? You might be muted because I didn't hear an answer. Let's unmute first.
Sorry, yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state and spell your name for the record, and you may put your hand down.
Yes, my name is Jerry D. Mermis. And I'm an
Could you
LMFT.
please spell it, please?
I'm sorry?
Do you please spell your name as well?
Oh, I'm sorry. Jerry, D for David, Mermis, MERMIS.
Thank you. Ms. McAllister, you may question your witness.
Thank you. Mr. Mermis, have you submitted a report and a supplemental report as well as a resume as documents in preparation for this hearing?
Yes, I have.
And without then repeating the contents of those documents, have you subsequently met with Mr. Patel?
Yes, I have.
And your meeting with him, does that offer an ongoing working relationship with him from now and throughout the future as he's testified to?
Yes, right. I offer my services as needed on an ongoing basis to all my clients.
And has Mr. Patel responded to that offer as he's gone through this process?
Yes, he has.
Directing your attention to the focus of 4 categories, the focus of stressors, insight, danger to the public, and motivation to change, actually perhaps 5, preventative measures for the future. Have you done subsequent work with Mr. Patel in these categories?
Yes, we've identified those in the process of doing evaluation and treatment and doing psychosocial history and all of that, and the events of the situation at hand. We analyzed what were the initial psychosocial stressors, what were the things happening in his life, in his business, in his career that led up to the loss of his or the surrender of his license. And then we proceeded on to working on gaining insight as to how these things came about, how he didn't catch it himself earlier, how he allowed himself to lose focus on his main purpose of being a pharmacist. And we went thoroughly through all of that. And then, of course, again, in conjunction with what's going on with the hearing, we talked about and what's going on with his being a pharmacist, licensed or not being licensed at this time. How was he participating in creating a danger to the public, in the opiate crisis, etc. And yeah, we looked at that area of motivation to change, and that's pretty much the outline
and how to prevent future problems. And that's pretty much the outline of what I do as I work with my clients, because at this stage in my career, my work is almost exclusively with healthcare providers, first responders who are dealing with overwhelm and burnout as they face the ongoing crisis in this field. You know, it is epidemic. As a matter of fact, not only do we have the COVID epidemic and the opioid epidemic, we have an epidemic of healthcare workers and first responders who are dealing with what they call in one place moral injury, and that being that in the process of trying to do the best work they can to serve their patients, they face so many challenges in so many different areas. They develop compassion fatigue and burnout, and they're kind of in this double bind when they're here to provide this service, and yet they have to provide so much electronic record keeping. They have their own personal financial issues with maybe student loans, maybe having a business like a pharmacy.
So, Mr. Murmas, because
Right.
I want to respect the board's use of time, I'm going to just redirect you a tad. And just specifically about Mr. Patel, do you believe that in the process of this psychotherapy that you worked on with him, was he able to recognize and articulate to you how he was contributing to the opioid epidemic? And then subsequent to that, was he able to articulate what the right mindset to with respect to his own conduct and his conduct in the future?
Yes, well, with respect to telling the story, you know, he described the decisions he made as a pharmacist and as a business owner, and he made comments like, you know, recognizing with hindsight that he had allowed his moral and ethical standards to slip, and that he recognized that his focus had changed from serving others by his profession to becoming more successful in purchasing a second pharmacy. You know, he recognized that through the various stressors of time management and financial concerns and personal health stressors, he talked about his blood pressure, battling, you know, his blood pressure going up, and recognizing the sense of anxiety and overwhelm. And we did talk then about how we went through that process of his gaining more insight as to how that all proceeded and to what he could have done differently along the way, how he could develop more personal habits of self-care in order to remain in a more self-care and also spirituality he's mentioned, and counseling, all the things he could do to make sure that he safeguarded against that kind of mistake in the future. So all that was a part of the process of, you know, again, recognizing the danger to the public that situation created, and then figuring out how to move forward into the future so that, you know, not only was he motivated to change by everything that had taken place, but he was motivated to set in place safeguards that would prevent any future problems.
Did you have any opportunity to discuss with him the concept of greed and whether or not his ability to make money in the future would exacerbate or trigger any of those any of those problems from the past?
Yeah, we had many conversations, you know, on a psychological level, on a philosophical level, as to the whole purpose of life. What is our purpose individually in our work, in our career, and the balance between what we can receive from life in the way of income, in the way of satisfaction, self-esteem, and the balance that we cannot have that in any quality way unless we keep that balance where we're giving, certainly giving out as much as we're receiving. And that giving out is where we have to, when we gain that understanding that greed is such a fallacy, greed it doesn't work. If it's only about what we can receive, then we actually block our ability to receive because we've quit giving. So I know that may be kind of ethereal, but we talked about that practically in cognitive behavioral therapy in terms of our thinking, our emotions, and our behavior. Maladaptive thinking is when you have your thinking is fear-based, it's insecurity-based. So that's where the greed comes in. I need to have enough for myself. I need to make sure I'm secure. That's maladaptive thinking, which leads to maladaptive emotions of anger and anxiety and depression and sadness, which leads to physiological changes, which leads to negative acting out behavior, choosing to put our own interest above the interests of others. And then as we identify that, how we want to move to adaptive thinking. Adaptive thinking is where you begin to see that, in order to receive, you need also to give. And that's the higher calling is to give to others. And then that creates more positive emotions, joy, security, all of those good things, happiness, contentment, the fulfillment. And then that affects our physiology on a daily basis, our blood pressure, all of those things. And that's how we move into then having adaptive behavior, where we are on a daily basis.
And with respect to this journey that you're describing through the psychotherapy, learning how to go from maladaptive behavior to adaptive behavior, in your professional opinion, has Mr. Patel been successful in this journey?
Absolutely. Yes, I've been working with him for over a year and have watched his progress and watched his thinking process and his insight process. And yes, I am convinced that he is fit to practice in his scientific pursuits and in his profession, in his life.
And is that as a result of the work that he's done on his own and the work that he's done with you?
Yes, it's a result of a combination of those things, right? And changes he's made. He's talked about the classes he's taken. He's talking about the work he's doing in the research. He's talked about making the decision to adopt children in India, to do those kind of altruistic things. Those are the things that develop our character and develop our ability to move forward in an adaptive, positive way.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. McAllister, and thank you, Mr. Merman. I'll now check with Ms. Jarvis if she has any questions.
I do, Your Honor. Just one question. I'd like to clarify a discrepancy between your two reports, Doctor. First, on page 70, I don't know if you have our stamped reports, but in your initial evaluation, you stated that you first evaluated petitioner on September 6th, and thereafter you had 11 sessions, so 12 total, including that initial evaluation by December 27th, and then you wrote that initial report. Then in your supplemental report, you write that you initially met with petitioner on September 6th and completed 10 sessions before writing that prior opinion letter. So one says 10 sessions and one says 12. Do you know, as you sit here today, how many sessions you have met with petitioner?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have it right here in front of me. And do you want me to list them?
Not list, but if you just have the number.
Okay. Yes, I have a number. Before I wrote, my initial session with him was on September 6th, 2022. And then I wrote that first report on December 12th, 2023. And between those two dates, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 sessions.
And you
and-
said December 12th, 2023, but I think you meant January 12th?
When I wrote my first report,
Yes.
okay, sorry.
Okay.
And then I had with him after that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sessions before writing my supplemental report on September 11th.
Okay,
For
thank you.
16.
No other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Jarvis. So I'll now have President O poll the board.
All right, that's okay with you. I'm just going to ask the members here if anyone has a question. There's nobody here. Anyone in Pasadena? Any questions?
None in Pasadena.
The head's shaking, so I think we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. McAllister, any additional questions for the witness?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Merman. You may be excused. And I think that brings us to the end of this petition. So let me check with everyone if it is submitted. Ms. Jarvis, anything else?
No, submitted. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McAllister, anything else?
No, thank you. Submitted.
Thank you. At this time, the record is closed and the matter is submitted for decision. We are off the record.
Thank you, Judge Wall. We'll take a now lunch break. We'll return at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. We'll return at 1 p.m. Enjoy your lunch, everyone.